today, and I want to talk about property. That's my passion. How many of you are homeowners? Okay, very few. So I've come to the right place. Is that fair enough? Okay. I appreciate some of you are students, some of you starting your sort of property journey early, but I do believe there's a message for you. I noticed on your, I noticed the sort of motto for your church is raising a people of purpose, impacting lives. And that's quite poignant to what I'm going to talk about today. The key verse, as Pastor Tayo and the previous speaker stated, was Deuteronomy 8:18. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. Are the slides on? Are the slides on? Okay, I can't. Is it on? Okay, sorry, right in front of me. When's my cutoff point? 12 o'clock. Okay, so that's the key verse. Can we just say that together, please? Deuteronomy 8:18. Can we just repeat that? 1, 2, 3, go. No. Say it with boldness. 1, 2, 3, go. But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers as it is today. So what is wealth? I've given you some examples there of what wealth is. It's abundance of valuable possessions or money, affluence, prosperity. Could someone give me another definition of what they think wealth is? Come on, don't be shy. Sorry? Knowledge is wealth, fantastic. Anything else? Okay. Opportunities, fantastic. Okay. Anyone else, apart from the gentleman in the front here? Health is wealth. Okay. Health is comfort. Thank you, ma'am. Basically, there's a few definitions there, and one of the key definitions I want you to remember is treasury, and I'm going to come to that in the latter part of my presentation. But it's important you understand the systems, and there's various systems that you need to understand. What I find is you have Christians, and Pastor alluded it in the beginning, you have Christians who are currently working in a system which is the physical system, and they don't quite understand the physical system yet, and they're Christians, and as a Christian you should be operating in the spiritual realm, so you can then access spiritual benefits of benefit to you in the physical realm. Do you understand? So it's important you understand the system, and what I've realized, a lot of people don't even understand what I call the world system, the marketplace system. And let's now touch on those systems. Next slide. Understanding systems. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding will attain wise counsel. There's two main systems I want you to grasp today in property. There's the foundation system, and my prayer is that everyone in this church at some point in time within the next 2 to 3 years would have reached that particular foundation level. And the foundation level, which is a serious wealth creation strategy, is simple. Is to buy a house. That's your first objective, a residential home. Remortgage and capital raise to fund your next purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what everyone should be doing. Majority of people in the current world system, they just focus on buying a house and they stop there and they rely on a pension. But some people now, because obviously things are getting a bit difficult, need additional forms of income, are now looking at other ways of generating cash, and they're using property to generate extra cash. So this is the key strategy: buy a house, remortgage, and capital raise to fund next purchase, rinse and repeat. You keep on doing that to generate wealth. Once you've done that, you can then go to the next level, which is entrepreneurial system, and that's the basic foundation level and much more. But that takes a while to get to. So let's just talk about the foundation system, because you need to understand this system inside out, understand the basics. You might not be ready now, but in 2 to 3 years' time, for those who are thinking of buying, this is what you need to understand. So the foundation system. As I said to you, it's buy a house, remortgage, capital raise to fund the next purchase. Now, you have a big advantage. Next slide. You have a very big advantage in that you're based in Birmingham. I'm based in London. London, the prices are just absolutely ridiculous. So you are actually in a very, very good place to actually buy properties because property prices are just incredibly a lot cheaper compared to London. So let's just summarize. Birmingham, second largest city in the UK. Prices are sensible in comparison to London prices. Huge advantage over London, is ideally positioned. HS2, high speed 2. Everyone know what's going on with HS2? Yeah? So when that happens, what's the current journey times from London to Birmingham now? How many? 1 hour 30 minutes. HS2 will be 49 minutes. So what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if HS2 is built or completed, if it gets the planning approval? Sorry? People are going to... Okay, and what's going to happen to house prices then? Okay, fine. Okay, you're with me there. I've looked online. You can actually purchase a terrace house in Birmingham for about 100,000, which is just incredible, absolutely incredible. And also, this particular government, whether you like them or not, are doing quite a number of schemes to help first-time buyers. You've got Help to Buy. You've heard of Help to Buy, right? You've heard of Help to Buy. They're offering 95% mortgages, right to buy, self-build schemes, shared ownership. There's quite a number of schemes, but the scheme I want to focus on now, just one of them, is shared ownership. Are you familiar with shared ownership? No. Okay. You are? Okay, fantastic. Someone is aware of shared ownership. Shared ownership, next slide, please. Shared ownership basically allows you to buy part of a house. So to keep it simple, if you imagine a house is worth £150,000, you say, you know what, I can buy 50% of that house. So the purchase price, or you're buying is 50%, it's £75,000. The other half, you pay rent on. This is actually a very, very good scheme. A lot of people don't like it because they feel they don't own 100%. But you need to take advantage of this if you can. It's a very, very good scheme. So if a property is worth £150,000, you purchase 50%, that's 75,000. You pay rent on the remaining 50,000 that you don't own. Yeah, are you with me so far? Now, how much is the rent on the part you don't own? To get a simple calculation, just do 3% times 75,000, and that comes to £188 a month. I checked on Rightmove. There's so many properties from 30,000 to 40,000. That's the purchase price. So you can buy a property for, you can own 25%, 50%, 75%. But at least you're on the property ladder. So the entry level is quite cheap. With shared ownership, if you buy a share at 25%, you have the option to increase your share to 75% or 80%. You can increase it. But majority of my clients don't actually increase their share. They just keep it as it is. So if you come in at 25% or 50%, you just stay where you are. There's a saying in property, don't wait to buy and wait. So what you do is you buy the property and you just hold on to it. So just as an example here, 5 years later, you bought a property for, say, 150,000. It's now worth 200,000. 50% share of that is 100,000, right? So your mortgage is 63,750 because you got an 85% mortgage. So you've got 36,250 left to play with. What people then do at that particular point in time is they use that deposit to then buy a property and own the property at 100%. Do you understand? So what you've done is the government has given you an opportunity to buy a property. You don't actually have to own 100% of it. You can own maybe 25 or 50%. You pay rent on the bit you don't own. You just don't bother trying to increase your share. Just pay the mortgage, pay the rent every month, and the property will appreciate in value. Property prices are going up. They will continue to go up because there's a scarcity of properties. They're not building enough properties. And then you sell the property, take your deposit, and what do you do with the deposit? You then put a bigger deposit on another property, and then you can buy a property, and you own that property 100% outright. It's a good strategy, right? That's your seed. Next slide. Just to give you 3 examples on this, I had a client who, she bought a property for 60,000. Yeah, her share was about, I think it was about 40% or something. That property she bought, it was in West London, it went to 180,000. So So when she sold it, she then used the money, just her share, 40% of 180,000, her share was enough to then put a bigger deposit on a 3-bedroom terrace house outside London. I had a phone call last week of a guy who bought a property in SW6. He mentioned the address. I knew straight away the price had gone up. He paid about 200,000 for it then. He owns 70%, a housing association owns 30%. The property has gone from 200,000 to 700,000. So he's now owns 70% of 700,000, which is 490. If he sells, he will take away just under 300,000 pounds. So he's used that scheme to generate deposits. So shared ownership is a very good scheme, and there are quite a number of properties on the market now I've seen across Birmingham, starting from, and they actually say shared ownership 50%, 40,000. Shared ownership, 60,000. So that's what you're buying. And also the costs are also very limited. So it's a very good way of getting on the property ladder. So let's talk about mortgage criteria, because it's important you understand this. To get a mortgage, ideally you have to be working full time. This is the quickest route to market. I appreciate you might want to work, you might want to become self-employed, but your best bet is to be employed initially. Learn some skills, but just be employed. You can start a job on Monday, you can get a mortgage almost immediately. It's very, very, very quick. Now, depending on your status, last time I came, I noticed a lot of, when I spoke at the end, a lot of people came to me at the end and said they had issues with their residency, they haven't got indefinite leave to remain, etc., etc. So if you've got indefinite leave to remain, you can borrow up to sort of 95%. If you haven't got indefinite leave to remain, you've got like a working visa, you've only been here 2 years, you can still get a mortgage. The only difference is you've got to put a slightly bigger deposit, typically about 15%. But this is what I'm saying, on 15%, you can put a 15% deposit on a shared ownership property, so you're still benefiting. Are you with me so far? Okay. Typically, you have to have been living here for at least 2 years, be on the electoral register at your current address, and you've got to have good credit. Unfortunately now, there's very few lending options for those who have bad credit. It's just not possible. It's just very, very difficult. We're all predominantly Africans, and we're all sort of economic migrants. So we're here for a reason. And if we're here for a reason, we have to understand the system. And the system is saying, as long as your credit is good, we will give you money. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you can't handle money, then you can't get credit. And it's the same thing with the spiritual realm. God won't bless someone if they suddenly bless them and they then start coming to church, because they can't handle money. So it's the same thing. If you can't handle credit, then you can't really go on the property ladder. So if you've got credit cards is a destiny killer. You shouldn't use them, and you shouldn't depend on them. Loans are better, because you will definitely pay it off. A credit card is only good for one thing, to build up your credit. If you can build up your credit, keep your credit balance at literally 200, 500 pounds a month, spend about 30, 40 pounds a month and pay it off each month. And that way you build up your credit, so people can see. The key thing with lenders is, can this person handle credit? What they want to see is every month you're making your payments. As long as they can see that, they will give you credit. They will give you credit. And with that credit, if you know how to handle it wisely, you could then use it to buy property. There's a saying in the industry, they call it other people's money. A lot of people who are buying property today are not actually using their own money. They're using money from banks. So they're not actually putting any money in. And they're taking money from other people's money, buying property, and making a lot of money out of it. And we in the kingdom are not doing anything about it. So we need to sort of, get knowledge and get wisdom and partake of these blessings. So unfortunately, if you've got bad credit, it's a no-go. There are ways you can, if you've got bad credit, you have to, say for example, you've got a credit card debt and you didn't pay and there's a default, you've got to pay it off. There is like a redemption, typically 3 years, then you can apply again, or you have to wait 6 years and it comes off your credit file. Yeah, but if you wait 6 years, you can't get credit. Property prices in 6 years, what would happen? They would have gone up, so they would have left you behind, unless your income has, risen substantially as well over the period, which is quite rare. Okay, so credit is good as long as it's good credit. So good credit, bad credit. Good credit is mortgages, bad credit is credit cards. Next slide, please. So just continuing on mortgage criteria for buying, there's a website called creditexpert.co.uk. If you go on there, it will give you access to your credit file for 30 days. You can see, forget about the credit score, but just look at your credit file. Look at what information the lenders have on you. Your credit file is your financial CV. When you apply for a job, the first thing you do is you send your CV out to the employer. When you apply for a credit card or a mortgage, the first thing they look at your credit file to see if you've got good credit. So you've got to understand it and make sure it's accurate. If you want to get a mortgage, the best thing to do is check with your bank first. Otherwise, you can speak to people like myself, a mortgage broker, for best options. Now, how much you borrow is key. You need to understand this. How much you borrow is based on income and affordability. And you always work on 4 times your income. So if your income is 25,000, how much can you borrow? It's simple. It's 25,000 times 4. Yeah? Next slide. So that's how much you can borrow. So 25,000 times 4 is 100,000. And that gives you access to all lenders. Now, there are some lenders that will give you 4.5 times, but that's a bit too much. Just focus on 4 times. So 25,000 times 4, 100,000 plus your deposit. Say you had a deposit of 17,000. So your total purchase price is 117,000. Are you with me so far? If you've got any commitments, they will come off. So if you have like a loan, you're paying £100 a month, that will come off the amount you can borrow. Yeah? So if you found the property for £112, yeah? And I'm giving you prices that I'm seeing in Birmingham. You can't get these property prices in London, even flats, but these are property prices I'm seeing in Birmingham right now. I saw one for 99,000 in Netchells. So you've seen a property for 112, you make an offer of 110. Your offer's accepted, right? Are you with me so far? Okay. Next slide. So 110 purchase price, 15% deposit, 16,500. So mortgage is 110 minus your deposit. So that's 93,500. Yeah, you don't pay any stamp duty because it's under 125. Your costs, £1,500 legal fees, mortgage processing fees about 800. So total costs on a property for 110,000 is just under £19,000. So in terms of monthly payments over 25 years, you're paying £400 a month. I did some checks on rents in the area. Rents are about, well, from 500 to 700 for a 3-bedroom house. Is that fair? Okay, so it's cheaper for you to actually buy. Now, that's buying a property at 100%. So you own that property 100%. Supposing it was a shared ownership and you bought maybe 50%, your cost would have come down to 13.5. Now, if you said, you know what, Fred, I can't afford 50%. I can't afford to, £13,500 to get on the property ladder. Okay, can I buy maybe, say, 25% of that property of 150,000? So your total mortgage would be 37.5. Your total cost, I've worked it out, would be £7,125. So for £7,000, you can get on the property ladder. Are you with me so far? Okay. So there are options. What you need to do is just make a decision as to what you want to do, and just if you're saying, okay, I'm not ready yet, I'm not ready in 2 years' time, get the information, get the knowledge, just be prepared mentally, focus, and you will get there in Jesus' name. Now, this is the foundation level. The foundation level, I've given you some ideas. I've given you about shared ownership, which is key. But to really make wealth in property, so the first property you buy, you keep, and then you buy another property, and another property, and another property. So how do you buy your second, your third, and your fourth property? Yeah, because that's where the wealth comes in. That's where the wealth comes in. That's where you get the money. So let's turn to that now. And the strategy is remortgage, capital raise, and invest. So this is what the savvy buyers are doing now. So people that are making money in property, this is what they're doing. They're remortgaging, capital raising, and investing. So let's just explain what remortgaging is all about. So let's just go back to this property you bought for 110, yeah? You bought it for 110. Are you with me so far? So in 7 years' time, in 2023, the property is now worth 200,000. Yeah? Your borrowing on it is still 93,500 because you put down 15% when you bought it for 110. You with me so far? So your equity is about 107. your income over the 7 years would have gone up. I'm assuming, right? It wouldn't be static. Is that fair? Is that a fair assumption? And then what people do is you then go to your bank and say, right, okay, I borrowed 93,000 7 years ago. I want to take out an additional £40,000. And the bank will ask you, what's the money for? I want to buy another property. Typically, you can get the money within 2 to 3 weeks. That's with your same lender. That's a further advance. Or you can just go from another lender to another lender. But so remortgaging basically is when you increase your current debt on your property. And then you take that money, you don't buy a car, a depreciating asset, you buy property. My first transaction I did some time ago, I bought a car, which is very silly of me, but I learned that wasn't the wise thing to do. So I've been around, I've made some mistakes. It was a lovely car at the time. I almost crashed it when I bought it. On the way back, I was looking at trying to work out the stereo, and I lost track of and I was going into a wall. I just had to quickly turn around, and it was silly. But there you go. You learn, and it was a lovely car. It was a 2-door sports car. I loved it, and I enjoyed it for 2-3 years, and I spent all the money as well. I made a lot of money. I made a bit of money at the time, but money just went. The money was supposed to use to buy another property, but it didn't materialize. But you learn. So remortgage, capital raise, and invest. Did everyone get that? So what I'm saying is, you bought a property 7 years ago, you pull out cash from the bank, you go to your bank and they give you the money. Yep, you've been a good borrower, so they give you the extra cash to buy another property. Now some people are uncomfortable about that. They're thinking, why would I want to increase my debt? But just bear with me. So property number 2 is a buy-to-let. So you're living in your current property, you're happy where you're living, you then buy an investment property. The purchase price is 150. You put your deposit, 25% deposit, bigger deposit, 37.5. Rental income is about £800. The rental income in that time, 7 years' time, would have gone up. So that's being conservative. And then what do? You do the same thing. You wait for that property to increase, and then what do? You just do the same thing. The property increases, and then you pull out cash. Yeah? And then you do that for the 3rd and the 4th. Now, if you do this properly, you do your first one is your home, second one is your buy-to-let. If you do the third one, properly, you can pull out enough cash on the third one to pay back the money you borrowed on your main home. So you don't have to then do the 4th one. Now, the first one is what? What's the first property what is it? Sorry? No. Just, yeah, it's a shot. It could be a shot. But what is the first property? What is it? Who said seed? God bless you, my brother. God bless you, my brother. Seed. The first property is the seed, and it's the hardest property. But my brothers, I gave you some numbers: 18,000, 13,000, 7,000. Yeah. These are. I mean, is this a lot of money to buy a property? Is it 17,000, 18,000? No, sorry. Yeah. Is it a lot of money? Okay. But for people who are not students, is it a lot of money? No, I'm being honest with you. Is it a lot of money? Sorry? Okay. But we're talking about creating wealth. So that is your seed. So the first property is always going to be difficult, yeah? But that's your seed. But your second and third properties, the money is coming from the capital appreciation of those properties, and the lenders will lend you money. And it's easy you find that it's easy to raise money on the second and third. I met a guy recently who is buying 9 properties. And I asked, how is he doing 9 properties? And then he told me his strategy, and I just said, wow. Even I had to learn. I said, wow. And all the money is coming from banks. And he's doing it in Wolverhampton, which is not far from here. And he's buying properties for 80,000, spending 50,000, converting them 3-bedroom houses into 5-6 bedroom ensuite houses. He's got 5 tenants, £400 a month. I mean, he's got about 100 plus properties already now, and everything he's done is he's a teacher. He's a law teacher. Teaches law. That's what he's doing. Nothing spectacular. Yeah. So you keep on doing that. So your second and third properties, you keep on doing that. And that's how you generate wealth. But that wealth It's good. It's good, but it's what I call wealth for you and your family. Yeah, and yeah, you can bless the church with it as well. You might have some surplus cash, but it's what I call when the Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. What you've done there is just really for your family. You now need to take it to the next level. So that's what I call the foundation level. A lot of people are now doing that. Not many, but that method I've told you is the way to generate wealth from property. And is everyone clear on that? It's not terribly difficult, is it? Now, when I bought my first property some time ago. I paid 34,500. This was a long time ago. Forgive me, you can clearly tell I'm quite old. And it was a new build. And I met the guy, the financial advisor. I remember his name clearly now. And he said I had to put down 5%. I was on about 11,000 pounds then. And 5% was 1,750. It was a lot of money then. And I worked all the overtime God gave me to just raise that money. And it was difficult, but I did it. When I moved in, I had literally no furniture. It was a new build flat. There was no carpet. I didn't have a washing machine. I had to go to Argos and get one of those pump beds. But I enjoyed it. And I was living on jacket potatoes because I had a cooker and I had a microwave, and I was living on jacket potatoes, and English style, as in you cut it, butter, baked beans, because all the money I had, I got this property. My friends were impressed because I was living in central London. I was living in a place called Baker Street. Did you know Baker Street? It's in Baker. I was living in 44 York Street. That was where I was living, and I used to take taxis everywhere because all the nightclubs were in central London, so I didn't need to have a car, and it was beautiful. But I hated the fact that I had to share a bathroom. That was my big problem. Share a bathroom with other people. I just hated it. So when I now moved from Baker Street, I moved to Tottenham. That was it was hard. It was hard. And I had, obviously when I moved to Tottenham, I didn't have a washing machine because I couldn't afford it. Because as I said, I had to, so because I wasn't used to the area in Tottenham, it was quite a rough area. I took my laundry to Baker Street, and I was doing my laundry when there's laundrettes for a while because I didn't want to. I wasn't used to, I saw a laundrette in Tesco in Tottenham, but when I saw the people coming in and out, I just felt uncomfortable. So after a while, I realized, you know what? Just swallow your pride, Fred. You got to just nip this in the bud. So I took my laundry, went to Tottenham Higher Road, and I saw this guy with long hair. What yeah man? Yeah, I said yeah, and that was it. And I just thought, big deal, just get on with it, and that was it. And then bought my washing machine, and the rest is history. And then I told you I made some money. I bought a car, but it was difficult. But I got there. And honestly, when I met the guy for the first time, the mortgage broker, I didn't have a clue what he was on about. But he told me, this is what you need to do. Get your pay slips, blah blah blah, this and this, and he helped me, and that's how I got it. And that's what it was. Just taking the first step. How did I find out? It was in the paper. I was in on the ground. Paper said you can buy this property if you're earning 10 grand a year or something. I said, I'm earning 10 grand a year. I can buy that. Didn't have every month I was broke, but I just thought because I hated the bathroom. The first thing I did when I got the keys, what did I do? Ray Doc's bath. And I was so happy. I was so happy. So that was it. That's how I started. It wasn't anything, didn't have any sort of parents give me money, etc. So if I can do it, you can do it. Yeah? Okay. Next slide. Now, that's the foundation level. 10 minutes, yeah? That's the foundation level. Yeah? Is everyone clear on that? So the entrepreneurial level. The entrepreneurial level is the foundation level and much, much more. Now, when I came last time, I did a presentation. I wasn't aware of the level of knowledge in the church. So I did some very technical slides, lease options, HMOs, and I realized when I asked how many people bought a property first-time buyers. Very few people had, so it was a bit technical, but lease options, homes of multiple occupation, development projects, they're all in the first slide. So I believe Nii has a copy of the first slide. I'll give you my email address at the end as well. So if you want the copies of the first slide, it explains all these concepts. But in the foundation level, I said you needed a bit of seed capital for your first property, and then you can then raise money from other lenders. But when you get to the entrepreneurial level, you're now operating on a different frequency. What you're operating on the foundation level, and I'm hoping you're also operating on a spiritual level. And the two together gives you what I call wealth multiplication. So the first foundation level, as I said, helps you family. You can leave an inheritance for your children's children. You're doing very well. You're still giving money to the church. But the real multiplication, wealth multiplication, is in this particular level. 5 loaves and 2 fish. There was a little boy. We all know the story, right? Yeah. He had 2 loaves and he had 5 loaves and 2 fishes. How many baskets was left at the end of the 12? Exactly. So that should tell you something. So there was a sermon. 5,000 men were fed, and it said 5,000 men. There were clearly women and children there. If you go to any Christian gathering, whether it's the Festival of Life, 70% are women, 30% are men. Is that fair? So when they say 5,000 men, definitely it's going to be more. So it's a fantastic miracle. And as I told you, mentioned before about wealth and treasury, what the kingdom needs treasurers, people who can generate income for the kingdom. Yeah? This is key. And you've got your wealth creation strategies on the basic level, but you now need to combine it with a spiritual level. And if you can combine the two, and it's simple, all you're basically saying is, I want to create wealth, generate wealth for the church, for the kingdom. Yeah, you said in your motto is what? Impacting lives? What is it? Raising the people of purpose and impacting lives. So you need money to do that. So how do you now get wealth multiplication? Yeah? So that's what we got. And there's some key attributes for wealth multiplication, which is what I'm going to touch on now. And the 3 key attributes for wealth multiplication. And these are areas you need to develop. Is people, relationships, and divine connections. Impacting lives. So you come to this church and your pastor is saying your motto, your objective is to impact lives. And this is one area that is a very, very big weakness. So you've got the foundation level understanding, and we're now trying to get you to get to the entrepreneurial level. But you need to understand that the wealth multiplication comes from people, relationships, and divine connections. So if you look at Job 42:11, when Job's prosperity was restored, who actually restored his prosperity? It says it clearly. It says his friends, his siblings came to give him money and silver. Can we quickly bring that up? Yeah? Okay. For want of time, you can read in your own time. And the latter part of his life was more prosperous than the first half. But who were the people that made him wealthy? His friends, siblings, and they gave him money and they gave him gold. Luke 8:3. This is Jesus was surrounded by he had Mary Magdalene, he had Joanna, he had Herod's business manager. And it says there clearly that they were contributing to his welfare. They were giving him substance from their own resources. So Jesus also needed people. And then for want of time, I'm going to skip to 1 Kings 17:4-6. We all know this particular passage. This is Elijah being fed by ravens. So this is key because sometimes God can use anyone to bless you. And if he can send a raven, which is a carnivorous bird that eats meat, to provide meat and bread to Elijah, then he can send anyone to bless you. Is that fair? So, I'm going to be pretty sensitive here. what I've noticed in the kingdom is sometimes we get so spiritual about our identity and what we are about that we can't relate to unbelievers, and we almost dismiss them. I had a client last week who wanted an architect. I introduced the client to an architect, and the client said, Fred, I also want a builder as well. So I had to tell the architect, look, just in addition to doing the drawings, you also need to provide a builder and make sure it's a good builder, because the builder's not good, he's going to come back and say, Fred, this builder's. So she said, Fred, I have a very good builder. I said, is he good? He said, yes. I didn't want to use him before because he was a Muslim. I didn't say anything, but and she's a Christian. But it's that mentality. So if you're supposed to impact lives and you can't relate to unbelievers, then you're going to have a problem. Because they're the people they're supposed to look at you and think, what's this guy got? What does he have? Why is he glowing? And then he will start asking questions, and then he will see the glory of God in you, and then that will say, you know what, I want some of this, and that's how you attract them. But right now, it's divine connections, and God uses people, relationships. So you have to be good at relating to people. If you're not good at relating to people, then you're not going to be good at attracting money. Are you with me? You have to really respect this channel. It's absolutely key. I can't emphasize this enough, because the money is not in the kingdom. The money is in the world, and we have to take that money and bring it into the kingdom. Are you with me? And so you have to start relating. And those people who you think are unbelievers are the ones who are going to help you. I've had so many breaks from unbelievers. I mean, when the Jew says he needs some, the Jew, you all know the general here. When he says he needs some money, he says he prays, and then someone will come to his office and drop some money. And the money is exactly, we've had those stories before, right? What's the common denominator? It's people. So people are key to your destiny. And you have to really, really understand that particular channel, and you have to respect it, because if you don't respect it, you're going to find it very hard to receive. Because if you find it hard to respect, if you cannot respect the channel of this in terms of connections and people, then you will find it very hard to attract people to you. So you're going to end up, you're not going to get the right people to help you. What I call destiny helpers, destiny enablers. So that's key. People, relationships, and connections. And while they're helping you, they're giving you help, what are you doing as well? You have to give. So you have to also give as well, because you go to someone, a destiny, because God will plant people in certain parts of your life to help you. If you look at your success, all the fantastic breaks you've had in your life, if you take away the people, think about it. Would you have had those successes? There were people during those periods. So it's the same thing. So people come to you, they bless you, they help you. What do? You say thank you. But just as they're blessing you, you also are a vehicle. You're also a blessing for someone else. So that's why you have to give. If you're just taking, then God is not going to send someone, because he knows you're not going to pass it on. So it's a reciprocal system. Are you with me so far? And then, and once you're doing that, so you're networking, you're relating to people, you're giving, and you're tuned into the frequency that, you know what, this wealth is for the gospel. God will send people to you to help you, because he knows that your heart is right and the money is for the gospel. And then you're going to get the right people to help you push you along. Yeah? And the other thing as well is, for wealth multiplication, is you have to also realize where there's a problem, if you can find a solution, there is money in it. And I can't stress this enough. So don't run away from property, especially if you've come to property. When you start going into property and you're operating this particular level, people will start giving you deals. They start giving you deals, and some of them you're going to think, right, okay, how can I sort this out? How can I resolve this? But if you're tuned into the frequency, as in your spiritual level, and your heart is right, and you're going to give and you're receiving, God will then give you solutions on how to solve those problems. Yeah? And that's how you move, and that's how you get your wealth. That's how you go from 5 loaves and 2 fishes to 12 baskets left. So he will give you enough to fund the gospel, and there'll be money left for you as well. So Proverbs, Genesis 41, Joseph solved Pharaoh's problem. It was a dream. He solved this problem, right? And that's 18:16. A man's gift opens doors to kings. So basically, there are 2 systems. There's what I call the foundation level, and my prayer is that within the next 2-3 years, people in the house of praise will get to that level in the mighty name of Jesus. And then from then, they will go to the spiritual level, which is the entrepreneurial level, and they'll be operating in what I call a spiritual level, wealth creation strategies, as well as spiritual level, and then they become a treasurer for the kingdom, because it's all about that. That's the key message here. So creating wealth, yes, you're going to get wet as well, but the key thing is to impact, as your church says, impact lives. And when people start seeing what you're doing, they say, you know what, I like what this guy is doing. I like the church he stands for. I'm gonna come to his church, and then people will start changing. Yeah, and then we can start beginning to have a revival. It's 12 o'clock. Any questions? Thank you.